Back when I was working at Amazon, I got the chance to participate in a very complex project. This project was about migrating from a very big monolith to multiple microservices. There were multiple constraints here. We couldn't drop a single order, no UX degradation, no latency increase, nothing. The experience needed to be the same. Trust me, this is not something that you do in a week. It takes a lot of time and very complex planning. In order to do this, we took advantage of some patterns that I want to show you today. So this is the first initial stage. As you can see, all the requests are flowing through a monolith that is handling all the business logic for all the teams that are working to build the checkout experience that you can see at Amazon.com. So multiple teams with different autonomy models need to collaborate together, at least at some point, to get to deploy everything to production. This is not something that scales, and it's pretty hard to manage, and it's pretty bad for the innovation. So in order to solve this, Amazon decided to introduce microservices. Here you can see some examples that obviously are not matching the names of the microservices that Amazon used. I've simplified everything just for the purpose of this video. As you see, this is what we are going to be taking as the normal production flow. Then, on the first stage, what we do is we keep this flow that we were talking about, but then we build something on top of it. We build a shadow router. What is this piece? This component is going to be moving the traffic to the normal flow, but also moving this traffic, triggering this logic from a shadow path. This shadow path is going to be triggered asynchronously, so this is not affecting the production environment. This is triggering everything, all the business logic in the same conditions that we are running the production flow, the same normal path, but just for the purpose of building trust. Building trust is going to be the key in this architecture. We need to asynchronously check that the business logic is actually working as we are expecting. How do we do this? We built this Parity Checker. How does this Parity Checker work? What we do here is we get the execution flow from the normal path and the execution flow from the shadow path. We compare them. How? As part of this architecture that we are building just for the purpose of that migration, what we do is we check how many mismatches we got in production. If user A was hitting checkout, what will be showing on the normal path and what will be showing on the shadow path? We want to check this parity and track on multiple different layers through multiple different categories what is the mismatch, if any, and if there is no mismatch, we just track this. For this request, everything was fine. The shadow path was returning the exact same thing as the normal path. Keep in mind that we can do this not just for the result that we can get from an API, but for everything that is part of the flow. We can also check latency. We can also check what's the difference in the UI that we are rendering. It's endless. We can track as many things as possible in order to reduce the risk that there is when you are actually launching in production. You can think that maybe building a system like this is maybe too much for a migration, but you don't want to skip this stage. You don't want to just directly go to production. You first want to build trust. Why is it so important? Because the next stage is going to be pretty boring, and this is what we are looking for. At this scale, we don't want surprises. We want everything to be boring. Deploying to production needs to be boring, and this is how we do it. We are using feature flags. Once we know that there is parity on all the potential dimensions that we are tracking on the user experience that we are providing, we use feature flags to actually roll out this experience into production. We're still at the beginning, running through the same normal path that we discussed at the beginning, but now we know that the new path is supposed to work. We've verified as much as possible that on the same conditions, the new path is going to provide us the same experience that the old path. So we move the traffic gradually using a feature flag from the old path to the new path. If you're trying to think this in code, this is basically a conditional. Take into account that these feature flags can go multiple different layers. It means that we have one primary feature flag that controls the whole migration. If anything goes wrong, we can just turn it off. We are back to the save old path. But we can also, considering that we are migrating multiple microservices that might not be migrating at the same time, and teams migrating these microservices might have different needs, we want to control it as much as possible. We want to reduce the uncertainty and the risk of performing this migration, and we want to do as many things as possible to accomplish this. While performing this migration, at all stages, we need to be monitoring latency and all the business metrics that we will be monitoring in any other case. Then, for the last stage, we go to production. We now want to deprecate the actual monolith. How do we do this? First, we need to ensure that there is no traffic getting into the monolith. We again need to perform all the monitoring and see that everything is going through the new flow. On the feature flag, this will be the new treatment. We want to check that everything is going through the new treatment. Once we've verified this, we can safely turn the monolith off. Now we are officially running on the microservice architecture. So, to summarize, as you saw, performing a zero downtime migration at big tech scale is not a deployment trick. It's something that requires a very detailed plan. The benefit of doing this, you are reducing the risk. You deploy to production very safely. No one is affected. No one knows that you actually did a very big migration. Building trust through shallow traffic, it's something that really pays dividends on migrations like this.